Thank you so much for joining us live on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter page. I'm joined by Surabhi Upadhyay, who's going to help us understand a very big development that is going to impact you directly. Your foreign travel is going to get expensive. Surabhi, thank you for joining us. How are you doing this Sunday morning?
Hi, Archana. I am good and I hope you're doing well as well. I think we can all feel a little better because when you were
Yes,
discussing this on Friday, the
yes.
world was a very different place. Today, I think we have reason to smile.
Exactly. And Friday was such a news heavy day, two big developments coming out in the evening, and it needs a lot of explanation. So, at the outset, I want to repeat my question. After 1st of July, if I am making a foreign travel, am I going to shell out more money? And why?
No, you are not, Archana, as long as your total spends on these foreign trips, tours, foreign shopping, maybe foreign investment if you want to buy a house, as long as, your total spends on your credit card don't exceed 7 lakh rupees, you're
Hmm.
fine. You don't have to pay the 20% tax.
All right, that's such a relief because in the past 3 4 days there was a lot of confusion, outrage, if I may use that word. People were complaining that we are already paying so much tax. Our foreign travel is the only sort of relief that we look forward to. People save up for it, but 20% is a massive tax amount.
Yeah.
Another question is, this is something that's coming under the LRS, the credit card spending. For the benefit of our viewers, could you simplify it? Why now? And what changes, what kind of expenses will be covered under this 20% TCS?
Yeah, okay. So let me just take a step back, and it's always good to know these things because as of now there is a rollback. We don't know, next year what the government does. So it's always good to understand the concept. Let me try and make it very, very simple. See, LRS is nothing but a rule through which Indians can send money abroad. Remit is the word. Remit money
Yeah.
abroad. It's called the liberalized remittance scheme. Now, as per this rule, any resident Indian can send in one financial year up to 250,000 USD. That's the law. We cannot send more than 250,000 USD overseas. It could be to America, it could be to any country. Basically, dollar value 250,000. Unless and until we have prior permission from the Reserve Bank of India. So if you want to send like a huge amount of money above this limit, you've got to go to the RBI and seek
Hmm.
special permission. The issue was that the government felt that some people are abusing this rule. They stick to the 250,000 limit, but then they end up spending via their credit cards. They swipe their cards for big transactions, maybe luxury purchases, pretty big ticket heavy spending, and thereby they're abusing this limit. They're going over and above this limit. And that's when originally, like about a week back, the government came up with this rule that whatever you're spending through credit cards, we will count that as part of this limit. But I think, as we discussed, touched on Friday, perhaps, nobody thought that there's going to be an unintentional or unintended consequence of this. Because what
Hmm.
is happening is that whatever money you're spending through this LRS scheme, there is a tax on it, which has been increased to 20%. And that's
Right.
why there was this hue and cry that, Are, now you're going to count credit cards as part of this. So that means credit cards will be taxed, 20% will be on credit cards. And that's where the problem was, which is why such a huge backlash that finally made the government realize that, take some
Yes.
steps.
Yes. So what happens now? Say, for example, if I'm, after 1st of July, say if I'm traveling abroad, if I buy a cup of coffee or if I eat at a restaurant, or if I'm traveling also and I'm using my credit card, so that amount will be deducted. I mean, that will show in my credit card bill for each payment separately. How does this entire thing work?
See, again, we have to wait to see how banks really operationalize this rule. But just logically thinking and speaking, it becomes
Hmm.
very simple. So, what does the law now say? The law says go ahead and use your credit card to book your foreign holiday or to buy your coffee when you're overseas. Use it to buy books from Amazon. Let's say maybe you're buying them in dollars, maybe you're getting it from the US website. Do all that you want. Use your credit card like you were always doing. Now we are not going to charge you any tax as long as all of the spending is within 7 lakh rupees. So whether you're buying coffee overseas, whether you are buying, a fancy pair of shoes when you're, shopping in Paris, or whether, as I said, you're buying books sitting here from Amazon, or you're ordering something online from the US website maybe some fancy shoe that you found. As long as all of these spends in a year are less than 7 lakh rupees, you're good. No tax. The moment the spends on, again, all of this is credit card spending. The moment your credit card spending crosses 7 lakhs in 1 year, then the amount over 7 lakhs that you're spending, on that, there will be a 20% TCS or tax collected at source.
Right. A viewer has sent a question. Arun Panikar asked, how will the 7 lakh limit be enforced across cards? If there has been a spend from April to June, does it get counted in determining the 7 lakh limit?
So again, we have to wait for the final operational guidelines to come in. But now that there is a complete amendment, we go back to status quo. So the reading is that in all probability, see now this 1st of July onwards, this rule was supposed to come in. But now things have changed. So 1st of July onwards, again, only your spending above 7 lakh rupees will attract the tax. That's how it's going to be computed. The understanding as of now is that it should not be that difficult. Credit card companies are anyway keeping track of our spends. Let's say I have 3 different credit cards, right? So the RBI anyway monitors LRS limits. Now, till now, it was not happening for credit cards. The simple understanding is that in all probability, each individual bank, the credit card provider, each of them, they have a statement. They know how much we are spending. So let's say they figure that in a year, almost 1 year is getting over, Surabhi has already spent 7 lakhs across multiple transactions. So that means that there will be some sort of a tracking to this, which will then tell the bank that I have breached my limit and collect 20% TCS on the next transaction. However, it's not as simple as I'm trying to make it out to be. We really need to see how banks do this, because remember, as of now, there is no immediate database across banks, across credit card companies that can instantly tell you, because I might have 5 different credit cards, right? So I might have spent 1 lakh in one, 2 lakhs in the other. So how will the banking system compile this data and track that Archana has spent 5 lakhs? She's just 2 lakhs away from the limit. Or Surabhi spent 6.5 lakhs and she's only 50,000 rupees away from the limit. So how will this tracking happen real time? I think these are operational questions that that bankers will kind of come forth and answer. But that's a very legitimate question as to how will you track all of these thousands of transactions across different banks and different credit card companies.
Right. Let me cite some examples of things that we use in our daily lives, and will that be taxed 20% as well? So, for example, if I am making a booking on Make My Trip or any such platform like that, or if I'm buying a YouTube subscription, a Netflix subscription, or ChatGPT, what happens in that?
So, your subscriptions on YouTube, or if you're subscribing to, let's say, a foreign publication or foreign magazine or something, all that, as we understand right now, should not be under the remit of this tax. Because again, it's all less than 7 lakh rupees in a year, unlikely that your subscription for any channel will cross 7 lakh rupees. So it should be fine. Now on tour operators, we need to understand the fine print. And I think these are discussions that are still going on that the companies look at, because now tour packages is something that in the budget, the finance minister had announced separately, that there will be a 5% TCS on tour packages. So if you're, let's say, on Make My Trip, if you're booking just standalone hotels or standalone flights, then it shouldn't be a problem. Again, these are the initial readings as everybody's kind of trying to understand what the new tax law is going to be like. But if you're booking individual flights, individual hotels, shouldn't be a problem, as long as your 7 lakh rupee limit is not breached. But, if you are going to book a tour package, because the word that was used in the budget was tour packages. So you're combining everything. It's a consolidated package that you're buying from Make My Trip or any sort of travel agent. Then we need to see what happens there. Because up until the budget, there was a 5% TCS on such packages. The budget changed this to 20%. Now we have a new LRS rollback that's saying on credit cards, nothing. But there is no mention of travel and tours separately. So you have to allow me another, I think, a day or two till the tour companies get clarity on this. So on packages, we need to wait and watch. But if you're booking flights and hotels, that should not be a worry. Again, as long as it's not crossing 7 lakhs, you should be good. No TCS.
Right. And Surabhi, we have been flooded with questions like these. Say, for example, like you said, there's now, I mean, until 7 lakhs you don't have to pay, but if you spend more than that, how can I claim that amount? And I'm sure there will be a duration of time. It won't come to me instantly. There will be a period for which I have to wait, preserve my bills. How do I get my money back?
Sure, great question, Archana, because in some cases, the way you do more than one holiday, and these days inflation is so
Yeah.
high, right? One foreign holiday between 2 to 3 people easily, you'll probably cross 4.5, 5 lakhs, depending on your spends. So, yeah, if you're taking more vacations, you are breaching that limit of 7 lakhs. Then what do you do? Good question. So, first things first, this 20% tax that the government is collecting is actually tax that will come back to us.
Hmm.
The only sort of issue is that people are arguing that, anyway, I'm paying income tax.
Yeah.
After paying income tax, I'm using that income to book my foreign holiday. So why are you
Yeah.
taxing me again? Is it double taxation? So the answer is it's not double taxation because the 20% tax will come back to you.
Hmm.
However, it's going to be a tedious process. I can tell you this because what you will have to do is you will have to, when you file your income tax return at the end of the year, typically all of us do it in July, right? So in that July return, you have to go and tell your CA that Mr. CA or Mrs. CA, here, you know what, these are my tax challans. So the moment you cross the limit and these credit card companies start levying the 20% tax, they will also generate tax challans.
Hmm.
That will be your record and proof that you have paid this much tax on this transaction and now you are entitled to claim a refund. So whatever you do, make sure that you ask your bank to issue the challan. It should happen automatically as the system gets used to this new sort of regime. It should start happening automatically. But watch out for this. If you are paying TS, ensure you collect the challan, save it properly on your mobile phone or laptop, wherever, because you will need it at the end of the year when you're doing your tax filing, income tax return filing. Then you tell your CA that here you go, here is my challan. I paid, let's say, whatever, 10,000 or 20,000 rupees as tax, TCS. Please ask the government to give me a refund. The refunds will come, but then they take another 6 months. So we're basically saying from the time you've spent it, you could be waiting anywhere between 15 months to 18 months to get that TCS tax money back.
Right. Surabhi, are there any exemptions? Say, for example, there's an untoward incident or there's an emergency, a medical emergency when you are traveling. There's an accident, or say, for example, if you're a student or an education loan and you feel like spending your credit card, would that also come under this 20% taxation?
Okay, so let me explain it in this way. This entire scheme of LRS, on which there is this TCS, right? We've just discussed that on spends above 7 lakhs, there is a TCS. Medical expenses, genuine medical expenses which are incurred overseas, for which money needs to be sent out, they are exempt from this TCS limit. And also education expenses. So if you are spending money overseas because you're paying your foreign university tuition fee, that is exempt. But again, you have to prove to the taxman, showing legitimate bills, showing whatever the name of the institution. When you go to your bank to remit money for those cases, you have to show that it is indeed going either a medical facility for a medical emergency or medical treatment, or it's going to an educational institution. So these are the only two categories where you can seek some exemption from the TCS. But again, we need to sort of ensure and see what the limits are. And whether in this new regime, earlier there used to be a cap on this as well, but we need to see in the new regime where there'll be zero tax. I mean, the understanding is that maybe there will be on these two, only on these two, medical expenses and education, there won't be TCS. But again, we just need to see how the tax fraternity is interpreting this as well. Other than these two spends, education and medical, on everything else, the moment you're going to cross 7 lakh rupees on your credit card, you will have to pay the 20% tax.
Right. Another viewer has sent a question. Pratik Bhavsa writes, LRS spends of an individual are compiled and monitored by the RBI. TCS is collected and deposited by the bank. Pertinent question, how it is going to be operationalized in case of multiple ICCs, IDCs in order to track the LRS ceiling and later TCS. So basically, is it going to become a headache for the bank?
Well, sorry, I missed the gentleman's name. Who's the person who's answering?
Pratik Bhavsar.
Pratik. Pratik has asked the million, or should I say the billion rupee question, because this is really what the financial fraternity is going to grapple with. And how do you monitor?
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, earlier when it was not about credit cards, it was about sending, let's say, a larger sum of money, which you would go to your bank would take details, and bank would sort of keep it in mind that Surabhi is remitting 5 lakh overseas for, XYZ expense. But now with credit cards, it will be difficult. Like I said, that yes, at an individual bank level, in my statement, it becomes very, very clear that this was spent somewhere in Europe, this was spent somewhere in a, Australia cafe, this was spent holidaying, in a jungle wildlife safari in South Africa. So at an individual level, it's clear. So bank one knows that Surabhi spent, let's say, 5 lakh rupees in one financial year. What bank one doesn't know is how much I've spent on a different credit card with a different bank. And right now, bank one and bank two are not talking to each other on LRS limits. How like how it happens in the case of any loan default. So the moment we default on a loan, there is a backend system in place which generates an alert and it goes across. So that in that database, that information sharing is happening in case of loans, like the CIBIL score that we talk about. But it's not happening in terms of credit card spends. So will banks be able to put together? It really needs to be a real-time digital interface.
Yeah.
So the banks across the system can monitor, okay, Surabhi's come to me, let me quickly check what is our LRS limit right now. And, in one line, it throws up, okay, Surabhi has 4 credit cards, card 1, 2 lakhs, card 2, 3 lakhs. But we don't have that system immediately up and running. So how do banks sort of start monitoring these limits? We'll have to really see how they do it. I think that's an excellent question, and one that we will also be asking bankers as we talk to them in the coming week.
Right. Devrat Parvate has written in, and he wants to know that what will be the impact if tour package cost is distributed in 2 parts. One is for Indian services like airfare, insurance, and other services to be enjoyed actually abroad, like travel, entry fee, hotel, etc., and a single invoice. Will it be 5% on Indian part and 20% on foreign part?
So again, a lot of this just completely, is thrown off. Like I said, that till last year, if you were booking the whole tour package, it was 5%. Now we need to see that this exemption that has been provided, 7 lakh rupee exemption, whether that's going to apply to tour packages also or not. Because in the budget, it was made quite clear that on tour packages, there will be a TCS. And that TCS was hiked to 20%. Irrespective of how you're making a booking, whether you're doing it through, whichever mode of payment. So again, I think tour packages, we need to just wait and watch and see what is the interpretation that the tour companies are taking. What is the interpretation that their tax experts are taking? So let's leave aside tour packages because it's still a bit of a gray area. But as long as you are, as I said, as long as you are doing individual flight bookings, whether it is with a Make My Trip, which is sort of an Indian tour agent, or let's say you're booking with a foreign website, and you might be booking in dollars or euros. With, let's say, Make My Trip or an Easy Trip, you will be booking in INR, in Indian currency. As long as it's individual hotels and flights, and you are within the 7 lakh yearly threshold, you don't pay TCS. But if you cross the 7 lakh threshold, then you will have to pay the 20% TCS.
Yes. So be my last question, and I think it is going to be another $1 million question. Why is the government doing this? Because there's a unanimous thread that binds all these people and their questions is that we already pay so many taxes. What is the need to tax us 20%? What is the necessity?
I think we can give some credit to the government that they were very quick to realize that this has been a complete misfire, and they managed to roll this back within. I think the notification came out, if I'm not mistaken, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and by Friday, it had been rolled back. So, like literally 48 hours, the government realized that this is the wrong shot, it's a misfire, and you need to change it back. Again, if you just go back, the intention, I think, was not to sort of upset the Aam Janta, the middle class, or really to tax them again. That was not the intent. Let's say it was a small omission. Someone kind of just didn't think through what the ripple effect is going to be. Like I explained, the intention was to ensure that our LRS limit, which is $250,000, that that people don't misuse and abuse that limit. If there is a limit the government has set, the country has set, then you should respect the limit. What was happening was that people were using their credit cards to go around this limit and go over and above it. And that was the abuse that the government was trying to curb. So in terms of spirit and sentiment, absolutely nothing wrong with the idea that, okay, we should ensure that there's no leakage. People shouldn't abuse the system by this credit card group. So the intent was fine, but somewhere someone forgot that it's not just putting credit cards under LRS. Now you got this tax collected at source. Okay, why TCS? On this, again, the concept is that there shouldn't be unaccounted money that's going overseas, Archana, right? The government has been doing a lot to fight black money, money laundering, really tightening sort of the screws here and there to ensure that any wrongfully acquired money, which is non-tax paid, it doesn't just land its way, on foreign shores, where people are, buying property, people are buying fancy yachts here and there. And these are ill-gotten gains. This is not genuine white money, just tax paid in India, which is going overseas the right way. It is wrongfully acquired money. It's making its way out of India, and then whether it is, as I said, fancy jewelry or yachts or whatever it is that you buy. So the idea was to put a tax collected at source, so there is a trace that every time someone is sending a big amount of money overseas, the bank that's remitting the money, that bank will generate that tax receipt and put that money into the government's kitty. The idea was not to collect more tax. The idea was that the government's antenna goes up, like, oh, okay, someone sent a huge amount of money, let me just look into it. It was more a way of monitoring the money that's going overseas to keep a tax trail. Because see, TCS was always coming back to us. Even when it was 5% or 20% now, the tax would always be given back to people. The idea was to put a trail so that the government can monitor what's happening and where is this money going, who is remitting, what is the source of this money, where is it going, is it going in some God knows some shady deals, narcotics or wherever, just to keep a track. But the unintended consequence was that you're really inconveniencing hundreds and thousands and millions of us regular Aam Aadmi Janta who's anyway working so hard, paying their income tax, and then on that salary, tax paid salary, then we're trying to have little joy by buying a bottle of perfume at the duty free or something, and then you taxes on that as well. So that's why there was the backlash. And I think it's a great thing the government listened, realized, and was very quick to limit the damage, so to speak, and to basically roll things back.
All right. Thank you so much, Surabhi, for helping us understand this in simple terms. And we again urge our viewers to keep writing to us because there are a lot of questions, and of course, we are awaiting more clarity. But you have explained everything in simple terms because that's what people have been writing to us about. So thank you so much. And once again, we'll have another explainer in case another big development unfolds.
No, absolutely, especially on the tour packages. I think Archana, we might do this again in the next couple of days. Let the clarity settle in because holidays are very big for everybody. And I will come back to you and we'll discuss. We'll do a holiday special just to completely clarify where you have to pay tax and where you don't.
Yeah, about one last thing I want to add. So about the holiday bit and of course about the official work, one of our colleagues asked this question to me, and if Shireen ma'am is watching us, maybe she can also help us understand. So if we are on a work trip, right?
Yeah.
And obviously the office gives you some amount, but what if you fall short of funds and you end up spending your credit card? Will that amount be reimbursed by your office, or you'll have to pay tax on that?
So first of all, make sure your office gives you a great limit when you're going outside. Make sure you take your office company credit card and don't spend on your own credit card, especially now. So these things are important, Archana. Go tell your manager, go tell your HR head that please, if you're sending me out for work, you give me the company card and ensure it's a nice, comfortable limit. Try and push for that. Now, if for whatever reason you exhaust the company cards, by the way, are very different because they are part of the corporate entity, and LRS rules for corporate entities are very different. So, companies are not in the purview of this whole discussion that we are having. So, step number one, push your company to give you the corporate card with a reasonably, a flexible, large limit so you don't have to face inconveniences. Number two, if for whatever reason, if you have spent the entire amount on the corporate card and you have to spend on your personal card, it shouldn't be such a problem. I'll tell you why. Now, because we have the 7 lakh relaxation. Because Archana, let's face it, if you're exhausting your corporate card, what will you do? Max to max, you'll you'll buy a meal, you'll pick up a coffee or you'll pick up a juice somewhere. It's unlikely that you will go buy a $500,000 diamond necklace, right? When you're on a company holiday, right?
Yes.
So the small little, extra spends that you will make on food and beverage, just don't go buying like super expensive French wines or like single malts which are 15 years age, because that's on your own account. Neither your company nor the government might refund you for it. But no, I mean,
And
jokes
they will
apart,
never send you again, of course.
and the company will never send you again. Absolutely. So, jokes apart, if you exhaust your corporate card limit and you're making these small F&B expenses, you don't have to worry because it will be under 7 lakh rupees. So you don't have to pay the TCS. Simply go take your credit card bill, take it back to your HR department and say, hey, your card was over. I paid this much on my card. Kindly reimburse. That should work.
All right. Thank you so much, Survi. And you have a great Sunday ahead. And I'll see you tomorrow.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.